Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
Alright guys, today we're going to talk about the spoilers for the upcoming chapter of the Boruto manga, and this right here seems to be absolutely amazing. We're going to get a couple of things in this chapter right here. One of the things that I definitely do want to point out is that from these spoilers, now I do want to point out it's not necessarily set in stone that these spoilers cover everything in the Boruto manga or in this chapter, but I think it's probably going to do that. But from what we know right now, they're probably not going to talk much about the Kata organization, so we're not going to get to see Code, we're not going to get to see Ida or Ada, whichever one you guys want to pronounce it. And that right there, in my opinion, is a little bit odd, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in my actual review and why I think, you know, that is. But regardless, let's get into the actual spoilers now. This chapter is going to be broken down into two main parts. The first main part is going to be Boruto popping pills. He's basically going to be popping the, as organic dinosaur likes to call it, the quote-unquote boba pills, or boba, I'm not even sure, boba beans. But these are pretty much the pills that Amato gave to Naruto to suppress the Otsutsuki transformation that Boruto was going through. Now, they don't necessarily know all the information about the pills. They don't necessarily know exactly how it's going to affect Boruto, but in theory, it's probably going to slow down the Otsutsukification and not necessarily have Boruto transform into Momoshiki as fast as he was doing. As we know right now, he's about 80% complete, and to be honest, I talked about this a lot. That prognosis was about a couple of weeks ago, so Boruto right now might be 81, 82, 83%. We have absolutely no idea at this particular point, but regardless, in this actual chapter, Naruto gave Boruto the option to actually take the pills. Boruto himself, like, this right here was absolutely crazy to me. It made me think that Boruto been popping pills since he was born. He basically took the pill, popped it in his mouth, big paws, and swirled it around and then swallowed the pill without any idea of exactly what it could potentially entail. Now, of course, we understand that you wouldn't really understand exactly what it would entail unless he actually did it, man, because this right here is something completely new. Boruto is just one of one in terms of actual patients taking this pill for the Karma Seal. But regardless, Boruto had absolutely no fear. Naruto was extremely dumbfounded. I was extremely dumbfounded when I was reading this, and Boruto pretty much summed it up by saying this. Boruto said, "We're not going to know exactly what it could potentially do or what the potential side effects are going to be if he does not take it." And not only that, Boruto also said that he's been preparing for the worst for a very long time. Now, this right here is something that we've seen for, you know, I should say, like, ever since he pretty much defeated Momoshiki. When Momoshiki told Boruto, like, hey, you're no longer going to be a regular ninja, Boruto said from then on, he basically said that he didn't necessarily plan on being a quote-unquote regular ninja. Not only that, going into the fight versus Ishiki Otsutsuki, we basically seen Boruto tell everybody that he was prepared to die right then and there. So Boruto popping this pill right now isn't necessarily too crazy, but just how it happened was extremely dramatic, and I'm pretty sure it would surprise a lot of you guys out there as well once you guys actually do read the Boruto chapter. But regardless, we know right now that Boruto is actually going to be taking the pills to quote-unquote suppress the Karma Seal. Now, this right here could possibly be the reason why in the future Boruto is still not necessarily completely taken over by Momoshiki. The next big thing about this chapter is going to be the sparring scene at the end of the chapter, or it's going to be the second half of the chapter. Now, the whole scene started with Kawaki pretty much reacting to Boruto popping these perks, popping the pills, popping the mollies, and Kawaki told Boruto, like, hey, I thought we had a plan to potentially or try to etch Code with the Karma Seal. Now, here's the problem. Kawaki understands how powerful Code is. Like, if you guys do recall, Code basically said that he's stronger than Delta. Not only Code, but Amato said that he was stronger than Delta. And when Delta came to the Hidden Leaf Village, Kawaki was pretty much damn near about to pee himself. So we already understand 100% Boruto plus Kawaki is not necessarily going to be able to actually restrain or potentially even beat Code to be able to give him a Karma Seal. So that right there is pretty much out of the window, and that's pretty much what Boruto was thinking right now. Now, not only that, they pretty much make this pact for them to actually train. Now, how they were going to train was a little bit controversial in this particular situation, because Sarada wanted to train a certain way and Kawaki himself wanted to train a certain way. Sarada herself wanted to train in the traditional ninja way of training, chakra control, technique, you know, polish and everything that a ninja usually does, and Kawaki wanted to get straight to it. Kawaki wanted to start sparring, he wanted to start fighting 100% so he could potentially sharpen his skills for future battles. And I understand both of these ways are absolutely right. Now, Kawaki's reasoning for wanting to do this is the fact that he thought that training in Sarada's way would take a little bit too long. For example, Kawaki raised the question, how long of training like that would get them on the level of Code or like anybody else, like Kawaki potentially said like 5 to 10 years, something like that. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. I hate talking about spoilers, and I hate giving my opinions in spoilers, man, because I just want to save it for the review, but I'm going to have to do this. But I think either way, both ways, they're not going to necessarily get to the point where Code is at right now. Like, they're going to literally have to go through some human modifications, like the same things that Kawaki went through, the same things that Delta went through, the same things that Boruto went through, the same things that a lot of people in the Kata organization went to pretty much get up there very, very quickly and potentially like beat the actual Otsukification of Boruto. But regardless, they get into that argument and they basically come to the conclusion that, hey, Kawaki is going to pretty much spar Boruto for the right to actually train the way that he wants to train. If Kawaki loses it, then they're going to train the way that Sarada wants to train. But before they come to that conclusion, it was a very interesting volley. It was a very interesting clash, I have to say, where Kawaki pretty much attacked Mitsuki. Mitsuki reacted very well. Mitsuki blocked Kawaki's attack, and in fact, Mitsuki was on, not necessarily completely on Kawaki's side. Mitsuki more or less understood what Kawaki was trying to do and understood exactly why he wanted to train the way that he wanted to train, and he himself kind of simplified it for everybody else. Not only that, Kawaki also tried to attack Sarada as well. Now, from these spoilers, it seemed like Kawaki had the upper hand and Boruto kind of saved Sarada. Now, I don't necessarily want to say that is 100% set in stone, man, because Organic Dinosaur didn't necessarily write it like that, and I do want to point out Organic Dinosaur is a person that actually translated a lot of these stuff, but she didn't necessarily completely write it like that. But that's what I interpreted from these spoilers. Again, once the actual chapter does come out, we're going to understand and see everything in full context, but from right now, that's pretty much what I gleaned from these spoilers. Now, not only that, after Boruto saves Kawaki, again, they agreed to the spar, and they agreed, like, hey, if Boruto beats Kawaki in the sparring match, then they are going to train the way that Sarada wants to train. Now, in this spar, Boruto pretty much beats Kawaki, and Boruto beats Kawaki in a very interesting way. This way doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, this way doesn't necessarily guarantee that Boruto is a stronger ninja or a stronger fighter, I should say, man, because of course Kawaki is not necessarily quote-unquote full ninja yet, because he doesn't necessarily know how to use a lot of chakra. But in this way, he doesn't necessarily prove that he's a better fighter than Kawaki. Boruto used the thunderclap era, I believe, and tried to hit Kawaki, but Kawaki tried to counterattack that, or he tried to defend that by absorbing the chakra. Now, this right here is something that Kawaki has pretty much been grown up doing, mainly because he had the Karma Seal since he was a very, very young child. And of course, you have to understand, habits can't necessarily be broken in a matter of a couple of weeks. This right here is actually probably one of the first sparring sessions that Kawaki did have ever since he did lose the Karma Seal. For Kawaki to slip up like this isn't necessarily too surprising, but after this, we understood that Boruto then won that sparring scene because, of course, Kawaki was pretty much out of commission after that thunderclap arrow hit, and then, of course, Boruto won the sparring session. So, of course, in the next chapter, then they're going to be training the way that Sarada herself wanted to train from the beginning. But again, we didn't necessarily get a lot more information regarding to the Kata organization. We didn't necessarily get a lot more information regarding to a lot of the Otsutsuki members potentially out there. But regardless, I do want you guys to think about these spoilers in the comment section below. And again, I do want to emphasize that I didn't necessarily cover every tiny bit of spoilers, and I will try to link these spoilers in the comment section below. I'm gonna say try, man, because Organic Dinosaur's Twitter account is private, so if you guys aren't necessarily following Organic Dinosaur's Twitter account, you guys are probably not necessarily going to be able to see it. But what I will try to do is try to see exactly, or try to figure out if anybody else reposted Organic Dinosaur's spoilers, and I'm pretty sure people did, so look out for that. Make sure you guys comment down below what you guys think about these spoilers in the comment section below. It's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.